Welcome, everybody. We're going to move on to day 2 of Unit 3, the whole point of civil rights, civil liberties, all that stuff. We are going to look at topics 3.7 through 3.9 today, okay? So we're going to talk about like due process, selective incorporation, that stuff, and what that means in a nutshell. Again, it's all an extension of civil liberties and civil rights. I do want to hit upon what we finished up yesterday discussing a little bit, is that there's this balance between freedom, what you get to do, and the public order and safety, and how that balance system always goes. And we even see examples of it today in terms of what works, what doesn't, with COVID protests going on. And is it your right to go to work, or is it not your right based on the fact that you might infect others and get people sick? So then that your right technically affects other people's rights, right? But there is this balance that always is there. Most of the time we cite, Americans are, hey, it's our freedom to do what we want, but we got to remember the balance is in place at that point. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. 3.7, we're going to talk about selective incorporation. And so our enduring understanding objective here is protections of the Bill of Rights, so the first 10 amendments, have been selectively incorporated by way of the 14th Amendment's due process clause to prevent state infringement of basic liberties. Okay, we're going to go back in after and really look at due process, but today let's look right now on explaining what the heck selective incorporation even is, okay? Selective incorporation, according to the Cornell Law School, pretty good law school by the way, is a constitutional doctrine through which the first 10 amendments of the United States Constitution are made applicable to the states through the process of the 14th Amendment. Incorporation applies both substantially and procedurally. Prior to the doctrine's existence, the Bill of Rights applied only to the federal government and to federal court cases. States and state courts could choose to adopt similar laws, but were under no obligation to do so. Okay, so that's kind of like, hey, you do you, I do me, even though we're under the federal system, we'll make it work together. Okay, whatever. Moving on then. The doctrine of selective incorporation has imposed limitations on state regulation of civil rights and liberties, as represented by McDonald versus Chicago in 2010. Okay, so what that means, selective incorporation in this one, is that we have to limit what the state says. Remember, we have federal, state, and local in our breakdown there. So obviously we want federal laws to reign supreme because they are at the top of the pyramid in terms of way laws are down. Doesn't mean that state and local is not important. It just means that federal reigns supreme in that sense, right? Because if you had a different system, you would have states doing whatever they want, you would have localities doing whatever they want, the federal government, and we would be a total mess in that one. So selective incorporation really gets around that. If we look at, though, McDonald versus Chicago here, let's go ahead, 2010, let me zoom in, sorry. Didn't realize. This is really cool because we got this from the Supreme Court. We got this from the webpage, so we get to actually see it on it. It does say that this court held that the Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms for the purpose of self-defense, and struck down a District of Columbia law that banned the possession of handguns in the home. Chicago and the village of Oak Park, a Chicago suburb, have laws effectively banning handgun possession by almost all private citizens. After Heller, petitioners filed this federal suit against the city, which was consolidated with 2 related actions. So basically what happened before this is Chicago was not allowing private citizens to have guns for purpose of self-defense. What we do know is Chicago has a very high crime rate, still does to this day, sadly, but it did have a very high crime rate as well in 2010. So people wanted handguns as a way to protect themselves in their own home in case of burglary, whatnot. So, selective incorporation came in and overturned it and said, no. See, it's your liberty, it's your right according to the U.S. Constitution for you as a citizen to have that, and Chicago cannot take that away from you. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what it is. You should definitely look at it, but that is a big case that struck down and said, no, local, state, you can't do what you want because it's a federal right according to the Constitution in that one. So that is selective incorporation there, and that's probably the best example you can get for it at that point. Amendments, we're looking at due process and the rights of the accused. But first, if I take a step back and look at it in terms of what the heck due process is. So our learning objective is we want to explain the extent to which states are limited by the due process clause from infringing upon individual rights. So that's basically where selective incorporation comes from, in that is the due process clause. But what is due process? So if we go and look at it here first, it is very important to know that due process did originate with the Magna Carta way back in 1215. It's an important provision of which was that no free man would be deprived of certain rights except by the judgment of his peers and by the law of the land. The guarantee was later codified by Parliament in statutes. We know that law of the land, due process law. So what it's saying there is that you have rights as an individual. And we go back to even Unit 1 and our founding fathers, the fact that there are some inalienable human rights that we believe as Americans we are entitled to as humans, right? We get that for it. Due process is saying you cannot be deprived of those without court of law, without procedural process. So we basically can't take away your freedoms just because we don't like you or we think you're bad. You have to go through a system in order to get those rights removed. And even then, you may not get them removed, right? Because your peers did not say you violated the law of the land or whatever it is in that point. So due process is very important. I think it's always one of those things that's thrown around in TV shows like, oh, what about my due process? Well, what do you mean by that? I know it sounds cool on certain shows of Law and Order, but what does it mean? It means you cannot have your rights taken away from you without proper protocol in that one. So as we go forward and we look down a little bit, we hear the right to legal counsel, speedy and public trial, and impartial jury. One of the biggest examples you can get from this one is your Miranda rights at that point. So if we go and look at what is your Miranda right here, this is what it is. So the word using when a person has read the Miranda warning, also known as Mirandize, is clear and direct. So this is what Miranda does say. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say or anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you by the state. Do you understand the rights I have just read to you? With these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to me? So that's what's going to happen when you are being arrested, when you are being Mirandized in that sense, is that they're letting you know that anything you do say can be used against you, but you do have protections. So you don't have to speak. You can have someone appoint for you so you can talk to an attorney. But the whole point is this Miranda came from the fact that it's protecting your due process, even though you're accused, because technically our system, remember, if we look at it, whether we like it or not, you're innocent until proven guilty. Regardless if you've murdered someone or not, you're still innocent at the court of law. They're just housing you until they get through your protocol. And then at that point, if you're accused, then you would go to jail. If you're not, you leave. But our system is innocent first, then we make the decision for guilty, where a lot of other systems around the world will flip it. Violation of law means you're guilty, and then you must prove your innocence. And if you think about it, just that switch of it totally changes everything, right? So when you are writing, you might want to that could be a nice alternative perspective to show, is that how just switching that simple formula would totally change the game, and why then America is so different and why we're the leader in the world for a lot of things in terms of it, and just how we look at those that are accused. And it is very important to protect the rights of the accused, regardless if you think they're the biggest monster on the planet. The fact is they have rights until due process goes through fully at that point. So Miranda is definitely the way to go. I did forget to put this up earlier. So again, we want to go through and we want to make sure amendments are known and we are looking at them. So again, the first 10 are the Bill of Rights. These are kind of the big ones that everyone really likes to see in this one. Miranda rule involves the interpretation and application of accused persons' due process rights are protected by the 5th and 6th Amendments. So again, let's go read some Roman numerals here. The first one, Amendment number 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in land or naval use, blah, blah, blah. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. So basically, you can't be tried for the same crime. So if you go through, O.J. Simpson cannot be tried again for the exact same thing that he was before. So he was acquitted of murder, cannot be retried for that again. Even if there's new evidence, something comes out, that has been done, they would have to go a whole different route to get it. So yeah, is O.J. guilty or not? I don't know. I think he is, but whatever. So that's the point in that one. And then for capital crimes, you have to have a grand jury. It can't just be someone, it can't be a judge singularly. accusing you at that point. So it does have to be a grand jury. So those are protections there. And even Amendment number 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state. That is very interesting because, a lot of us went to the court this year and we got to see it in that one. What is a speedy trial, right? Is a speedy trial like it's got to be done immediately, or is it something speedy up to a certain point? I think that's a little open for interpretation. So, but if you think about it, the rights of the accused, if you are accused and innocent, you want your trial done in a speedily fashion, right? You want it done quickly because you want to get back to normal in that one. So we don't often look at the accused and why they matter, but you have to have rights for the accused, because just because you're accused doesn't mean you're guilty. And remember, we go back to that distinction now, that accusations often a lot of times tarnish people. For example, when someone is accused of rape and they go through it, their image has been tarnished. Even if they are innocent and they are proved innocent, the accusation is still flaunting over them. So, we really want to make sure that the accused have their rights despite the fact that they may be guilty or they may not in that one as we go forth. So that's looking at the due process of the accused. And if we scroll down a bit more now to 3.9, so we're going to look at amendments, due process, and the right to privacy. Ooh, I like this. So we go back again to hey, you as an individual matter, your civil liberties, your civil rights, you have those innately, and that's what makes you you according to America's laws and our Constitution, and why everyone wants to migrate to America, because we believe in that, and that's our core fabric, if you will, at that point. So we're going to explain the extent to which states are limited by the due process, again, upon infringing your individual rights. So think about it right now. I have a problem right now, is I am a United States citizen, but I'm also a citizen of California, but I'm also a citizen of Los Angeles. And so if we are to look at those three in and of itself, I have a leader in President Trump, I have a leader in Governor Newsom, and I have a leader in Mayor Garcetti. And then I also have a local leader in myself, Mayor Vinatieri. I have 4 levels of leaders that I'm supposed to listen to, right? And let's be honest, today we're seeing some different messages across the board in that one. So how am I supposed to feel confident that all those levels are not infringing upon my individual rights? And we use the perfect example, Governor Newsom defying orders and saying, hey, no, I am not giving in. I am shutting things down, even though some people are citing that the beach is my right. I have the right to do and go to the beach if I feel like it. And as long as I stay away from people and I act accordingly with your orders, I should be able to go. You shouldn't be able to close them. So you are infringing upon my rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Are you? I don't know. And not property, but definitely pursuit of happiness and your life. Interesting in that one, right? So one of the great examples we've heard for a long time now is Roe versus Wade from 1973. Primary holding, so a person may choose to have an abortion until a fetus becomes viable based on the right to privacy contained in the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Let's go back quickly and just make sure we know what the 14th Amendment is. If you can't read Roman numerals, don't worry, I'm here for you. X always means 10, V is 5, and then where they put the thing shows you from that point. So there we are, 5, because I am Vincent Malcolm McLeod the 4th. My son is the 5th, so I know this. Section 1 we look at here. I think this is kind of the big one for 14th Amendment here. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So they're basically upholding federal laws and saying, hey, look, states, you cannot take it away from people. You can't. I know you're in Texas. I know you're in your own thing, but we matter too. So what this is saying, if we go down here and we kind of look at it, I would definitely, if you're going to use Roe versus Wade, I would make sure you know the points of this one here. But a pregnant single woman, Ms. Roe, brought a class action challenging the constitutionality of the Texas criminal abortion laws, which prescribed procuring or attempting an abortion except on medical advice for the purpose of saving the mother's life. So basically, Roe is saying on this one, it is my right to have the abortion. And although Texas laws would say otherwise, I have those rights according to the United States Constitution. So I should be afforded that according to the 14th Amendment. Boom. Privacy laws. Yeah, okay, in that one. It's very touchy because you have the process of life there. And then it really brings in, what is life? And that's a whole bigger thing you could discuss. But for purposes of AP government here, you want to stick with that one. One of the ones you could use even rights of privacy is Federal wiretaps, Patriot Act again is a big one to use for that in terms of where is privacy, at what point does privacy stop. You might even want to, if you wanted to use a future evidence, you could cite COVID stuff. Again, we're going to go back to COVID on this. Is that how are we going to move forward with the testing stuff? How are we going to decide who is infected, who is not, and what invasion of privacy is that? Think about it. Like if I have to wear a bracelet walking around that says I haven't been infected yet, technically without a vaccine, I can be. Is that infringing upon my privacy or not? Because it's showing people that I don't, so then am I being treated differently? What is it? So all these things, are layered to really think about in that one. Whole point, though, for today is we're really looking at due process. So in summation, we want to go back and make sure that we know that due process gives you rights. It gives you the ability to have rights at all the levels, and no one can infringe upon it. Plus, it also does protect people in general. And again, let's go back to it. The right of the accused means you're not guilty, you're innocent until proven guilty by your peers, court of law, whatnot, okay? Very simple in this one, though. Good luck with it. Keep going. I would look at those cases, and I would definitely make sure McDonald versus Chicago 2010, because I think it is a very, very important case. But to me, it all comes back to this 3.6 here, where you're balancing what freedom are you willing to have versus public order and safety, right? And we say the balance again. More public safety, more public order. I technically need to have less freedoms because that's the only way to keep everyone corralled in it. Where if I want tons of freedom, reality is I could have a bunch of vigilantes and public order may lack. So really it's finding that balance, and then it's finding what the constituents want, because ultimately the government serves the people. So if people's mindset is changing, then does that balance change, and does government have to react to it? Ooh, that's a tough question. That's a PhD question right there. Incorporate that. Good job, guys. Good luck with it. Remember, train for 5, hashtag that, 30 minutes a day before May 11th, and you will be just fine, I promise you. Auf Wiedersehen, everyone. Bye.